Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome back to Sooner Intel. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, along with my co-host, Chris Mason of Sooners 360, and Chris with a K from Horns Down Podcast. We have a special guest tonight from Temple. He's a Temple analyst, Mr. Ryan Wallen. We appreciate you coming in, Ryan. Welcome to the show.
Yes, thanks for having me on, guys. It's always a pleasure.
Hey, man, big game coming up this weekend, man. Look, Temple hosting there at the Link, coming in 2-0. They look pretty good, man. This coach is in there. He feels like your coach is excited and happy about this team's chances. Tell us about this team, man. Tell us what you think of them.
Yeah, this isn't the same Oklahoma or Temple team that played Oklahoma last year down in Norman. There's been a complete identity change with, starting at the top with the coaching staff, with KC Keeler coming in from Sam Houston and really making an instant impact and turning this program hopefully back into a winning program like people saw under the Matt Rule era and the Jeff Collins era and the Al Golden eras of Temple football. So, it's really been just a mentality shift because a lot of the players on this team are players that played in that game last year down in Norman, and they, saw that beatdown happen at the hands of the Sooners. And, these guys are just itching for a chance to get back out on the field now with Oklahoma coming up to the Link and, getting to host a top 15 team in college football. And hopefully this is, going to be a big game atmosphere at the Link. And this is arguably one of the biggest games Temple's had in the last 10 years in program history.
So I have to say, I put on the film. I watched you guys against UMass, and I watched you guys against Howard as well. So we're not going to sit here and talk about the competition or the level, this and that. We're going to say, hey, coming into this game, you guys are better than last year for sure. So we'll give you that. Like your run game, I think that what you guys do offensively it's really unique. Defensively is unique as well, but offensively it's interesting. Kind of seeing you guys go to some interesting looks. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say crazy interesting because we have seen those, especially in Stillwater. But the pistol look, man, you guys are spreading it out. It's actually like a true spread. It's not coming in here and you talking about, hey, we're gonna split
Love
two
the pistol.
Yeah, one can pass, one can really run. Seems like you guys got your guy who you want, and it seems like you got a hell of a tight end. I think 6'6", 6'7" or so. That tight end, he's a threat down the seam. He's a threat. You got two good running backs. Offensive line looks like it's improved or whatnot. So, I mean, what have you been pleased with the most offensively and defensively with this team?
Yeah, I think schematically, just having Tyler Walker now as the OC, who comes from Montana State, and obviously led them to a national championship game appearance at the FCS level last year. People were skeptical at first that, is this guy cut out for the FBS level? He was only been an OC 1 year at the FCS level. But, obviously through the first 2 weeks, having scored 97 points and a plus 80 point differential, and last week against Howard had scored on all 9 possessions up until the final time Temple had the ball in that game. And then they finally are forced to punt by the time, with all the reserves in. It's a night and day difference from last year. You mentioned the pistol formation. There's a lot more built-in RPOs. There's a lot more fluidity with the offense. And Walker just has a way that he's designed his scheme that there's a lot of misdirection and a lot of switching on coverages, and it's forcing the defenses to make those switches and really communicate with one another. And if a team's not communicating, it's generally been letting guys pretty wide open in the passing game or in the running game. And then you just had players executing. Evan Simon has went out there and looked like a totally different quarterback from last year, even when he did take over the starting job from Forrest Brock, who had started against Oklahoma in that game. But, he's a guy that has really, started to show why he was able to be a Rutgers commit and be a Big Ten caliber player. With his passing numbers so far this year, with a 77% completion percentage, 9 touchdowns with no interceptions. He's moving around a little bit better, and he's moving out of the pocket. He can pull it, tuck it, run with the ball a little bit more than he had last year. And you mentioned the offensive line. I think that is where Keeler himself has said has been the biggest improvement since that staff got on campus this offseason was the offensive line just got quicker. They got in better shape, and they've just become more explosive, and they've become masters of their position rather than, being the five best guys that are going to play along the line. They're kind of really honed in on that, being an expert at that position, and it's really seemed to pay off so far.
Chris Mason, you got a question?
Yeah, I mean, so it doesn't sound like there was a mass personnel changeover, right? It's mainly just the new coaches seem to have just re-energized the team, re-energized from an execution, play calling standpoint. So, but is there anybody that you seem from a roster standpoint that seems to be just sort of re-energized with the new coaching staff? Someone who's just really we should be keeping an eye on that's just taken a big leap with the change in coaching personnel.
Yeah, I think one guy to point at is running back Kchris Worthy, who was a guy who came into Temple as a JUCO, came in under Stan Drayton, and finally started earning a little bit of playing time towards the end of last year. Showed really his explosiveness, especially in the Tulane game where he was the only guy that was able to score against Tulane last year, and that Temple lost to them. But he has a big play factor. But then in the offseason, new staff came in and he had to get his grades together. And, Keeler said this, I think, in his presser last weekend that, Kchris was a guy he sat down with and said, come back to me in a couple weeks. You got to have your grades together. We're going to have to find someone else to fill in that role for you. And, he's a guy who has changed his mindset completely, Keeler said. And, he's come to work and he's really pushed Jay Ducker, the guy who followed Keeler from Sam Houston, for that starting running back position. And even though he didn't ultimately win it and become the number one back, he's still a very solid number two. He's been getting a lot of touches in the game. He's explosive out of the backfield in the passing game and in the run game. He can be a return man as well. And he's just a guy who really has seemed to taken on, this new mentality and this belief in that Keeler is going to be a guy that's going to turn this program around. Same with the defensive line. Keeler has pointed to them a couple of times saying that they were a group that made a pact that they were going to stick this out and they were going to get this Temple program turned around. That's why none of them ended up entering the transfer portal. And, they're very deep there. And Keeler said that's probably the deepest room they have on the team. It's one of the best defensive lines he's inherited throughout his coaching career. And that says a lot for a guy who's been in the industry for 32 years. And Temple just feels very comfortable playing 9 and 10 guys on that defensive line. So it's keeping those guys fresh throughout the course of the game.
So, go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to say, obviously, Casey Keeler was talking a little bit about the hot mic that was in there for the press conference the other day. Felt like it was a little bit of disrespect calling them a high school team in comparison. Thank you. Thanks to old Parker Thune, by the way, for doing that. But he's been kind of shooting back a little bit, though, and talks about that he doesn't have any interest in being realistic about what their chances are and whatever. He doesn't really believe in that kind of stuff. Do you think that he's used that as, obviously I'm sure he's using that as a way to fire his team up. Do you think that's been helpful for this team though, coming in? And now it seems like they flipped it around with the edit that they did with the Baker Mayfield mugshot that kind of pissed a lot of people off in Norman. So
yeah, I think definitely it's obviously going to be locker room material. The players are on social media as well, and I'm sure they saw that. There were a lot of Temple fan accounts tweeting that out and, retweeting it, and I'm sure players were seeing that because of that very reason, being called a glorified high school game and all, and, being laughed at, that 25,000 people is going to be a sneeze of a crowd there at the link. But, I think that Keeler's attitude is that he just wants to go out there and settle it between the sticks. That's where the battle's going to be won. And he's been around the game long enough to, I think, keep the heads cool on the team and just make sure that they're, coming in ready and focused to play for this game, not so much getting, amped up for the name of Oklahoma and being intimidated by that. But in the same way, I'm sure he's also telling them, this is an opportunity that you have to go out and make a name for yourself and show, even if you don't win, that Temple football is back and they're going to be able to compete with anybody that they step foot on the field with this season.
So just kind of going off of that, and just let's just go ahead and get into it. How do you see your guys matching up against OU?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a struggle because obviously Oklahoma is much more talented than UMass and Howard are. Um, obviously the thing that people have said with Temple is at least they've taken care of business so far. And two teams that they knew they were going to beat, they handled business with in pretty convincing fashion. So that's where I think you see first the biggest improvement with the Owls. And they're not going to necessarily just lay down to an Oklahoma team who's expected to win this game and is, a 3-touchdown favorite right now. I think the biggest matchup's obviously going to be whether the O-line is able to withstand, Oklahoma's defensive front. There's several NFL caliber players on that Oklahoma defensive line. And Temple's O-line hasn't faced that sort of challenge yet and that sort of adversity. They've been playing guys who typically are, undersized compared to what they are right now. Some of these guys are guys who played against Oklahoma last year, and are they going to be able to rise to that occasion and keep Evan Steinman upright throughout this game? So I definitely see that as being a focal point of this game. And then I also have concerns about the defensive secondary with Temple. They really haven't faced high-quality receivers, especially a guy like Deion Burks. He's a guy that's a big-time playmaker. So Temple's corners and secondary, they're going to be challenged in this game. And, they had some struggles against UMass early in that game where they were missing some tackles, and that allowed UMass to actually move the ball a little bit against them in the first half. But once they kind of got into the swing of it, it was much better and more contained. But, that's still a whole different thing when you have now a team like Oklahoma coming in with a potent offense and a solid quarterback.
So outside of this game here, we will handle that on Saturday, and regardless of the outcome or whatnot, are you? I think Atlantic 10, right? Or what conference are you guys in again?
American Conference.
American. I'm a John Chaney type of guy, so I remember those days. I'm a basketball guy, so I remember those days. I love watching Temple basketball. I still do on the most.
Parker's on the channel tonight. I mean, Kchris.
But anyways, just regardless of this game or whatnot, what's your outlook on you guys' season? I think that you guys could go in there and compete right off the bat. I mean, I think the American is not necessarily outside of Tulane. And I mean, who else is on the lookout?
Yeah, I think after seeing the first 2 weeks, obviously, I agree that I think Temple has now a very solid chance of reaching bowl eligibility this year in Keeler's first year at the helm. And if you would ask me 4 months ago if that was going to be the case, I would have said, they're probably on the verge of it, but I don't know if they're there yet. Didn't see a whole lot in spring ball that had impressed me, but once the summer came, I guess the guys really just turned it on and locked in, and they've just looked solid ever since. So, I think they're going to be competitive in the league. I don't think, like you said, the American has looked all that great this year outside of USF and Tulane. Obviously, Navy is a team that can be very tricky, and they're very solid. Army with the triple option can be, and they off a hot season as well. So there is that upper echelon that I don't know if Temple's right there to crack yet, but are they in the category with the ECUs and the UTSAs, the North Texases of the league? I think they're going to be competitive with those teams this year, and they should go out and handle business against the lower echelon of the league and get that 6-win mark that they're needed. And it just soothed me to see that they went out and handled business against a UMass team and went out and just handled Howard the way they should have handled them without any worry of, an upset. And because that had been something that we really had seen under the previous two regimes, is that Temple teams really weren't able to establish that sort of dominance on the field. And it's good to kind of see that back with Keeler now at the helm.
Good coach, man. He's done a good job. It seems like so. And I agree with you. I think it's easy to not stay focused on games like that when you feel like you have a better team. So I like them in the American Conference, but I think that it maybe that you don't necessarily win it this year. I think you should be competing for it here in the next couple, though, if you keep this guy around.
Yeah, and I think the good thing is that now that Keeler's up there in age, he's 66 years old. He's been in the game for 32 years. he said when he took this job, this was his stop to come back home. This was his chance because he's from Pennsylvania, his wife's from Pennsylvania, and he was looking for a way to come back home. And I think just this was the perfect opportunity for him to get back into the Northeast. Obviously, he had success when he was at Delaware and winning a national title at the FCS level there. He coached at Rowan University in New Jersey for a good amount of time as well to start his coaching career. So he's just shown that he can really win wherever he goes. But the Northeast is where he had his roots, and he established his name before heading down to Sam Houston.
Yeah, it looks like a good fit. And I just looked at your schedule. You got Georgia Tech. Who knows what Army is, but it does seem like there are. You're 2-0 right now. It does seem like there are 4 or 5 wins possible on the schedule, depending upon how things shake out. Obviously, Tulane and I think Georgia Tech would be the most difficult games. But it looks like you certainly have some have winnable games, and that the longer you can keep bowl eligibility going, the more the team will stay. When you're getting blown out last year with Drayton, and it was. And the losses piled up. It's just harder to maintain any kind of momentum. And I think there's a good chance in November you're going to have some meaningful games, and that'll be really important for the program's momentum.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned Georgia Tech next week. That'll be a game I'm sure the Yellow Jackets are looking for some payback on from a couple years ago, when they came up to Temple, and Temple just blew them out in a game that they definitely probably should not have won.
Man, I remember that.
And you're catching them.
They only scored on a safety, and that was Jeff Collins coming back to the link after he had left Temple to go to Georgia Tech. So a little sweet revenge for the Owls, but I'm sure the Yellow Jackets would be wanting some payback for that, especially now that they have some expectations.
You are catching them off Clemson, though, so that's kind of a good, schedule-wise, you always want to catch a team coming off of big games. You catch an OU off the Michigan game. So if you're, you take any advantage you can get, right? And if, from that. So that'll be interesting. I live in Atlanta, so Tech is kind of my backup team. When I saw that on the schedule, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, we do have to ask, man, what was up with the Baker Mayfield, mugshot. I mean, it's been all love between the coaches. Venables has hyped you guys up and hyped the coach up and everything. I saw that. I said, wait a minute, hold on.
Hey, I can honestly say that. You at the end of the day, they're Philly fans, and Philly fans will be Philly fans. They're out there throwing snowballs at Santa Claus and doing him and punching horses.
Answer, by the way, this is a fair answer.
So I mean, I other than Temple, I'm not a Philly guy. I'm not a Philly sports fan, so I don't really fall into that. I'm wearing my Steelers right now. But I think that's kind of what it is. Philly fans have a very unique personality in that sense, and they're ones that if they feel like they were disrespected, they're going to give it right back and probably do a little bit more than what they should in that regard. But I think at the end of the day, they're trying to just create a little bit of buzz and hype around the game because, like I mentioned, this is Temple's biggest opponent coming into the link in 10 years since Notre Dame was there for College Game Day and Matt Rule's 2015 season there.
Ooh, boy.
So, Ryan, for any OU fans heading to Philly, and we're recording this obviously Thursday night, but what is the one cheesesteak place they should go to?
I'm a big fan of Jim's Cheesesteaks on South Street. I love Jim's. It just reopened last year again after it had a fire in it that closed it for a while. So I will always say Jim's is a good cheesesteak place. I'm not big on Pat's and Geno's type deal. They're the touristy ones. If you are picking between them, I'm definitely more of a Geno's person than a Pat's. But another one I've heard is very good is D'Alessandro's. Never actually gotten a chance to eat one myself, but I know D'Alessandro's is a very popular one as well and is widely regarded as one of the best. But don't sleep on anything in Reading Terminal Market either if you're heading up to Philly. definitely a unique experience there. Highly recommend to Nick's. They have a great roast pork sandwich.
The pork
there.
sandwich. The pork sandwich I heard is awesome. So okay.
It is. And they have good Italian sausage too. Really like their Italian sausage sandwich.
You can't really go wrong with any of those places in Philly, though. I was there for a while when I was in the military, so in the area anyway. So we used to go. Gino's was pretty good. So but what was the one you were saying at first? The one you prefer the most? D'Alessandro's?
Jim's
on South.
Oh, Jim's. Okay, yeah.
That's funny.
Good old Philly.
Always good to get a little home territory, advice on food like that. So,
well done there, Chris Mason. That's the right answer. That's the right question to ask this guy.
You gotta, if you're in Atlanta next week for the Georgia Tech game, be sure to drop me a line. I can point you to the best places to go in ATL, depending on what kind of food you want. So,
all right, we'll do.
Ryan, before you go, obviously you can stay, but I know that you got to wake up early in the morning. You probably got to get on the beat now, all the rest of that stuff. But before you go, please tell everybody where they can follow you at. Obviously, you're on X, but let them know.
Yeah, of course. So you can follow me on X at Ryan Wallen 247. You can follow the Owls Daily X account as well at Owls Daily 247. You can follow my wonderful editor Sean Passer, who is the Temple athletics guru. He goes to every game home and away for football and basketball. I don't know how he does it. He's on X at Temple Owls Daily, and then you can obviously go to owlsdaily.com on the 24/7 Sports Network and check out our site there.
All right.
Yeah, we appreciate having you in, man. Make sure to
thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, don't be a stranger, man. It was fun. Anytime you want to jump on here, you want to talk, you can spit some stuff about Temple. You can also get on here and talk about the wonderful world of Arch Manning as well. So I mean, it's so many different topics, so many activities.
Especially with Temple playing a lot of these Texas schools now. I mean, I'm sure some Oklahoma fans follow those Texas schools, so we can talk about some Texas football.
Well, anytime you can beat anybody in Texas, we're all down for that. So
I'm sure.
No doubt about that. All right, man. Anything else you want to add before we get you out of here?
That's everything. I think the only thing that I saw a comment in the chat, somebody asked if I would get my ass kicked for wearing a Steelers shirt in Philly. I would say yes, probably I would, because when I went to a hockey game when I was in college at Temple, I was wearing a Ducks jersey, and the Ducks were playing the Flyers, and I cheered for one goal, and I got threatened to have a whole pitcher of beer dumped on me. So, yes, that is how fans are. So, yes, I would.
My mom, my mom's a Steeler fan, and I took her to a preseason game there against Philly, and there was a guy that was like, "Better be glad this isn't the regular season." And I looked at him like, "Hey, it's my mom."
Yeah, they have no chill sometimes.
Yeah,
I mean, heck, look at the Miami Marlins game the other night with the Philly fan that's stealing the ball from the kid.
That was wild.
There it is.
Tough, man. All right, man. Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks, Ryan.
Appreciate you. Thanks again.
All right, man. All right. Ryan Wallen. Hey, man, that was cool stuff. I'm glad you brought that up, though, about the cheesesteak stuff, because for anybody that's going out there, you got to hit up the right spots over there. And man, there's really not any bad ones, though. For living there as long as I did is awesome. And middle of the night, you can just go hit up any of them, and they're open. Good food. Good stuff. I miss the cheesesteaks. All right. Happy birthday there to Sooner legend Mike.
Legends, man.
Yeah, man. Happy birthday to you, sir. All right. Let's get into talking about this game a little bit. I think that it feels like Keeler may have kind of, returned the favor a little bit of the, you had the hot mic from Parker and everything like that, but in the conversation, but then he turned around and kind of flipped it back around, and then of course the edit and everything, that kind of,
he's helping OU.
That's what I'm saying. He returned the favor. You have to worry about them having a hangover after Michigan last week. Now it feels like they're going to go over there and be like, okay, we're a little pissed off about this. This guy talking a little shit.
Yeah, look, listening to Ryan talk, everything that he said is what you see on film. I think one of the things is that the score is not necessarily telling all that happened in that UMass game. You go back and watch that UMass game. There's a running back people that I could see probably getting to like probably one of your upper echelon G5 schools, or maybe crack a light small P4 school. Rocco Griffin. If you go back and watch that game, the first half, he was running that rock, and he had to make a couple of cuts, but he was running that rock on that defense, a defensive line that one defensive lineman at the end who's about 250 pounds, 6'5" or so, really good, has a nice go-to move, kind of just cutting inside. But I think we'll be fine. This is a game where we can literally try to establish the run. All we're trying to do is just get a rhythm. But my thing is that if you go back and watch the offense, they will spread the ball out. It's not all the motion. Maybe they haven't shown everything against UMass and Howard. But what I will say is that I think that we will be ready defensively, simply because I think we match up well, obviously. But at the same time, I think that as long as guys are disciplined out there, we should be able to stop the run. This is why people, I say, and you can hear it on some other podcasts as well that I was watching, but Illinois State was really good matchup for us, because that prepares us for a game like this. Playing Michigan, nobody thought Michigan was going to come out there and run what pretty much Auburn is going to run against us. Let's be real about that, and we'll talk about that next week. But this non-con schedule has been really good for us. My biggest thing about their offense is just the fact that they do like to run that pistol look, and they like to run play action out of that pistol look. So my thing is that I don't know if that quarterback is going to have enough time to play action to the running back, right? Then turn around and look off a corner, look off a safety, and then throw it down the same. I just don't know if he's going to have that enough time for that each play, right? This is a game where I see them coming out there and probably trying to run what you saw against Arkansas State 2 years ago, whenever they were just trying to run a lot of quick game and get the ball out of the guy's hands. It's what you saw in the Illinois State game as well. There's a reason why we haven't really had sacks, is because they're trying to get the ball out of this quarterback's hand as fast as they possibly can. On the other side, and I'll pass the mic after this, but on the other side of the ball, here's the thing that I think gives me a lot of comfort, right? Arbuckle. Arbuckle is a really good play caller, especially games like these right here. If you go back and watch the film while he was at Washington State, it didn't matter if they were playing Washington, it didn't matter if they were playing Texas Tech, it didn't matter if they were playing Portland State. A lot of the key concepts, a lot of the fundamentals of this offense, you saw it throughout each game. It's just the fact that some opponents had a couple of wrinkles that he ran against them. So it's one of those things where I could see us getting up. I think we will go and handle business against this team. And don't get me wrong, could they get an early score where it's like 14-7 or 14-3 or something like that, where they move the ball? Yeah, but I just don't know that once we get down there to the red zone, or once we get to at least if they get to the 30-yard line and on us, I just don't know if our defense is going to let up to where they want to try to run the ball and really establish that. They're going to have to set up some blocks and set up some stuff to where they can get some really long yardage runs, and I just don't see that happening. But we're going to have to shift. We're going to have to do different things, but I think the communication will be there. Hearing BV and a lot of these play, a lot of the tea leaves or whatnot, it seems like our team is motivated to go out there and yet again prove something else to the world again. Is that, hey, what you saw against Michigan is going to carry over to here. Again, we have a chance to be special this year, but these are the games right here that you have to go out there and win. These are some of the more important games on the schedule. Why? Because these are games where, one, you can work on yourself, and two, you can show consistency. And that's all we're trying to get through these first few.
Showing a killer instinct, right? And not playing with your food, but getting it done. Get in there, get your business taken care of. I agree. I think, and Duke was saying we better not look like crap for 4 quarters. I agree. I think you can't, and this team, even under BV, has had a tendency to play well and then not play well. So, you don't You want to see this team kind of, turn that corner. And this is one of the steps to becoming a championship football team is to, take care of business on the teams that you should take care of business on. No disrespect to Temple in any way, shape, or form, but there's no way they should be on the field for you for very long. And so I would expect that they're going to get out there and handle, or I would expect them to get out there and handle their business, particularly when they gave you something to put on the bulletin board a little bit. Mr. Mason?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more about OU handling the road experience as the team for the first time. As you said, just handling success. How do you handle success? What does that look like? And is there leadership on the team on both offense and defense to make sure that you're just not flat? That because Temple's going to be high for the game. This is, their coach is obviously preaching, this is sort of how we measure ourselves. I mean, he's doing everything he needs to do, right? I mean, it's very much like, and then maybe this isn't the best example with the start they've had, but this feels like a Chris Kleinman kind of hire for them a little bit. And that he's going to bring, energy to the program and they're going to just execute at a higher level. They're going to be more consistent. They're not going to give us the 4 touchdowns they gave us last year, really, with all the fumbles and special teams mistakes. So can OU play a clean game against a well-coached, smart opponent, very similar to Illinois State in that regard, in terms of just being well-coached, not making a bunch of mistakes, and can they, I think it's the first game where, the team that we're playing might actually air it out a little bit. Illinois State was disinterested in doing that, and Michigan's game plan didn't really. They weren't gambling. Michigan was obviously just trying to keep it a rock fight and try and get into the fourth quarter with one possession. That was basically what they were trying to do from a very broad perspective. Yeah. I think Temple's going to throw the ball around a little bit, and that kind of influenced my pick on defensive MVP when we get to our predictions. But I think that's what we're going to see. And I think defensively, that's if you were to say anything about OU's defense so far this year, you could say that the cornerbacks haven't been consistently tested deep. That would be the one sort of thing. Like Illinois State wasn't interested in throwing it deep at all, and Michigan
have time for the receivers to get deep though too. And I don't know that you're going to really have.
Well, I mean that's the crux, right? No one's attacked OU deep because no one's felt like they could keep their quarterback upright long enough to do that. And we hit Underwood last week quite a bit after he released the ball. He got knocked around a number of times. So I think that's the interesting gamble that Temple's got to take, right? Do you try and test OU deep? And doing that, are you willing to expose your quarterback to OU's pass rush? So I think that's the conflict Temple's in, probably for the most part, because OU's front seven in terms of run stopping, for the most part has just shut down the run and is the defensive line's on the other side of the line of scrimmage. So that's the conflict there. Offensively, the question is, can OU, are we going to see the starting 5 from last week, or are we going to hold out for Susie? Are we going to see, if we have that starting 5, are we going to see hopefully a better running back run game, only using Mateer as a jab instead of the main run weapon? And and I'd like to see some more wide receivers now that you've had 2 games to get Mateer, in chemistry, get chemistry going with the core 3 guys. Can we see a little bit more of maybe Zion Kearney and Elijah Thomas and maybe Ivan Carrion? Can we see a couple more guys get some more reps and start getting Mateer in shape there and getting in sync there? Because I think Temple will, again, like everybody else, sort of overplay the run a little bit. Like seems, even though Mateer's playing well in the passing game, I think most teams are like, look, we just need to overplay the run because we can't. We'll accept the quick death, but not the slow death. So I think that's the question. What does OU do about that? And if Temple's pretty much saying pass the ball, will Arbuckle basically say, okay, I'm not going to run my. I know Joe Sugoi says Jomarco Carter has played, but I would like to see the other young guys get in the game a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's the question: is if Temple is challenging us to pass, will Arbuckle take that challenge and allow Mateer to attack downfield again?
Well, that's the thing is that he finds that balance, man. Just like I said, just watching a lot of film on them this summer or whatnot. Like I said, it's consistent across the board. They're going to take shots when they want to take shots. And I think the thing is that now there's one thing that's missing from this offense, and it's a consistent running game. But if you go back and watch that Washington State film, Chris Mason, I can't remember them having a good tight end. I don't remember. Maybe they had an actual tight end, but I don't necessarily remember them having
Not having a speed weapon like
no.
that, like Canick. That's something different. So you're right, he does.
No.
I just think there's the sometimes we sort of like, well, we're not running the ball very well. And it's like, well, guys are putting 7-8 in the box. We should be blitzing them with the pass.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes in those out of conference games, it's like, look, take what they're giving you. It's not, don't beat your head against the wall. We're not trying to prove anything.
So here's the thing: is that there are still the same players on that team, and I know it's a different coaching staff and all the rest of the stuff, and they want to be unrealistic, this and that. Now, I will say both teams have improved. I think defensively you improved at OU, and I also think that offensively you put up 50 points against them, basically handicapped. I mean, literally and figuratively, right? So
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if that makes an overnight difference. I know people are trying to put a lot of stock into the 11 a.m. kickoff, traveling to the great Northeast. That's all fine and dandy, but at the same time, they got to line up, they got to execute as well. So I think for the most part, as long as we don't come out, slow, sluggish, or anything like that, we should be fine. Jason?
Yeah, I think I wanted to go back to this one question here, but just to kind of piggyback off of that, I don't expect them to go out there and have 250 rushing yards whenever if they're loading the box up. I just don't see the point in, like you said, banging your head against the wall. Why? If they're loading the box up, hit their asses deep and make them get out of the box. I think that they are going to get trying to get a rhythm with their running game, and I think that you need to at some point. But again, I'm not one of these people that's worried about who's running the football either. I think that John Mateer is built to run the ball, and that's who he is. That's how he does things. I think that if you try to take that away from him, then he's not the same football player that he is if he's running around making plays. It's just like Baker. You weren't going to keep him in the pocket. I always thought it was the dumbest shit in the world. And when he was in Cleveland, that they would try to, stick him into that damn pocket. And when he's small too, and trying to look over his, big offensive lineman and the big defensive lineman on the other side and getting his ass kicked. I just didn't see the point in it. So not that I think that that's going to happen this weekend, but I think you got to let this guy do what he does. Right. And I think that they are going to cook these guys. Shout out to Jay. I think they're going to cook these guys. Look, I don't see them matching up very well. You know what I mean? It's Temple. It's not. We're not talking about. A real contender for anything, and not to be hating on them or anything, but just saying. I mean, it's not UMass and it's not Howard. And so Oklahoma's going to go in there, and I think even if they do play with their foot a little bit, they probably still blow them out of the building. But I would say I don't really expect them to have 250, 300 yards. You know what I mean? One question I did want to go to if they are handling their business, and True Okie, he put this, so I've had this up there a little bit. We heard Coach Venables talking about being a real thing that's in their mind is that they want to save the red shirt for Michael Hawkins, if at all possible. Do you expect them to go to him, or do they go to somebody else if they do, blow them out in that first half, or feel like, going into the fourth quarter, they need to play somebody else? Is it Michael Hawkins?
So they want to try and keep his red shirt, which I think is obviously something they've talked with Mike Hawkins Sr. and Jr. together, right? They've had a family discussion about this. And I think they're trying to respect their feelings on that issue, as well as keeping, it's very clear. Like, look, if we need him to start, he's starting, and we're not going to worry about it. And I think Mike Sr. and Mike Jr. both understand that. So I think it really depends, Jason, if So let's say for some reason things go really well in the first half. Maybe you get a couple of turnovers and you're up 35-3 or 35-6, whatever, at halftime. And, Arbuckle's always going to Brent's probably going to want Arbuckle to always follow the Bob Stoops model was your starting quarterback generally plays the first possession at a half because we're making in-game adjustments and we just want to have the starter and the offense ready for that, right? That's something you want to do. You want to come out, make those adjustments. So I think you'd see him the next series. And then I think for knowing that you've got the Kent State game coming up, which would be a second game, I think you might see Neubauer just go in. Because if you're up that much on the road, we're probably going to keep things pretty. Start emptying the bench, especially on defense, and maybe you empty the bench on, in terms of the offensive linemen that you take. So I could see you put Neubauer in there, and I think and then perhaps save one of Mike's games for a home game in Norman for Kent State, from to come off the bench at Kent State, get in the mode so that for the bye week. And Texas, that Mike's had a chance to play, so that I'm saying, that he's doing it for the home crowd, do it so Mike gets at least one game in front of the home crowd this season, gets a chance for friends and family, everybody to see him play. And if you're going to waste one of his red shirt games, I think that makes sense, and that way you've gone through 5 games, you've only used one, and you've got the second half of the season. He's played, he's kind of got the juices flowing, he's kind of got that out of his system, he's had a chance to play. And it could be a longer stretch for Kent State, because Kent State looks miserable, much worse than Temple, at least just anecdotally, right? That's what we're hearing, and that's what the score watching tells us, because I've not watched a single play of Kent State to tell you what they are. But I think that's what I would do. I would say use Neubauer, but if Arbuckle decides he wants to see Mike on the road and see how Mike can do in a road environment and in a quick test, and you're able to give him a stretch of time where you can really, I just don't want him to waste the game, Jason, where he's just handing off and it's just kind of pointless.
I think I agree with that 100%. And I think that was obviously kind of what
Brent's talking about, right? It's like, I don't want to waste his year handing the ball off to X-Rob 6 times,
I think that you probably, if anything, you probably get him into some action against somebody like Auburn, or maybe into the Texas game if you can, in some capacity where you've got either one or the other, you know what I mean, where you've got a package for him or something like that, to where you can get his juices flowing that way. I don't really care about putting him in against a team that we know that they're going to blow out.
I don't mind it. I don't mind if it's Kent State at home and they're giving him the full suite of the offense, even if it is with reserves, as long as they're letting him run the offense completely. But I think you're less likely to want to do that on the road with just a traveling squad, right? It's a smaller squad. I know 65 is still most of our backups, but I think you just want to say it's a little more of a controlled environment. You let him have the full offense and run the full scheme for a series or 2 against Kent State. And I think that makes more sense than him just handing the ball off to a running back against Temple in the fourth quarter. But, we'll see. Truoki, don't see this the wrong way. I'm very high on Mike. I think Mike's got a great potential in Norman. He's clicking with Arbuckle from everything I'm hearing. Yeah. They like Arbuckle. They like what's going on. My sources have told me that Mike was in Mateer's back pocket throughout August. Clicked there. They have a friendly mentor kind of relationship kind of going on, as much as Mike knows that he's sort of competing with Mateer on a certain level. They have a good mentor relationship. So I think everything Brent's telling you is, I don't want to waste Mike's year, because we want to make sure we can have Mike for 2 seasons if John leaves this year. That's kind of the message. That's what Brent's explicitly telling you by saying we don't want to burn his red shirt, and we don't want to burn his red shirt. If for some reason John came back, it would be understandable if Mike Hawkins want to move on. But if he's redshirted, he also has the potential to sit again, and he's seen, OU's got enough examples of you sit behind veterans when you get your chance to play, it does work out for you. Yeah, so there's lots of options there. But I would say, as long as if OU's up by 28 points after Mateer runs the first series in the third quarter, I would say, I wouldn't mind seeing John out of the game and seeing Neubauer out and focus on some other things.
Right.
And and I don't think let's not confuse this. They really liked what Neubauer did in August. They felt very comfortable with him being the third string. They liked what they were seeing on him. So, they were very happy to pick him up after they lost Gonzalez to Pitt. That was kind of a surprise for them. So they rebounded well about it. They liked that pickup, and he had a good August camp. So I think, there's every chance we see Whit Neubauer. But again, if Arbuckle decides he wants to get Mike in the game and let him run the offense in Philly, I'm down with that too. I just feel like we have an offensive coordinator I now trust and respect. So
and I think that's the thing about it there is I think everything that we've heard, not just from Coach Venables, from Buckle as well, is that they love what Mike Hawkins is doing. And listen, I understand that everybody wants Bo Bentley. Come on, bro. Bo Bentley is not going to start over Mike Hawkins. That's not happening. If that's where we are, come on. I don't see it. All right. So is Oklahoma in the driver's seat for Peyton Houston over USC? It sounds like that's the case. Go ahead and throw that up there, or we could do that at the end if you want to go ahead and get into.
No, let's just get out of the way so we can then switch to our predictions if we need to.
Okay.
Yeah, so the on-3 rivals conglomerate of Gorney, Chad Simmons, Steve Wiltfong all have predicted him to OU.
Yep.
247 today. Mike Roach and Tom Loy, those guys who are really good as well. The 247 guys are good, especially Greg Biggins. They're projecting OU to win that right now. He's obviously going to LSU over the weekend, but LSU's made a weird recruiting decision. They're bringing in another quarterback, a 5-star that they really want over Houston. If you were trying to push to Houston that you're really our guy, why would you do that? And OU, he was the only quarterback. OU had like 100 kids on campus, and other than a 2028 kid, Nash Henry, from Norman North, Peyton Houston was there. And he was the only 2027 quarterback there, and he was the quarterback. He was the entire quarterback recruiting focus that day. So, if LSU kind of ignored Peyton for a while, thought they were getting Elijah Haven, and LSU's been focusing. Kyle, do you think Elijah Haven's going to A&M? I'm just trying to get a clarity on what you're asking there. But yeah, I think Elijah Haven. Yeah, So I'm not sure what he means by that, but I'm sure Kyle will post it. So I think LSU, if they were trying to make Houston feel like the guy, then why would you bring in a 5-star quarterback in the same class for that visit weekend? It's a tactical mistake, I think, in recruiting, and tips off Houston that really he's a backup plan for LSU, but he's OU's number one guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with what Duke was saying here. He was saying, we need Hawkins for conference play. Games are only going to be more physical moving forward. May need some Hawkins insurance. I agree. I think if you're gonna try to ramp him up at all, I think that you need to put him in an SEC game, and so that would be either Auburn or Texas, possibly in a package situation. You know what I mean? I'm not saying start him or anything like that. I'm saying get him some reps in some situational stuff, because I think that they have some reps, some packages for him that it wouldn't surprise me at all if they have packages for him in conference season to, try to catch him off guard a little bit, right?
If you're going to put Hawkins at wide receiver with Mateer in the game, Texas is the game to do that, right? To give Texas, to make Texas, because you could flex Hawkins, you could flex Mateer back out swap the quarterback and confuse. If you wanted to play some games, I'd save that for Texas.
No,
I'd save that look for a Texas game.
no doubt. No doubt. Anything else you want to add here? Or we want to jump into these projections here real quick?
No, I think, we got Kchris back. So, Chris,
He's back.
So, Kchris, do you have any grand thoughts on what OU should do if they get up and they want to play their backup quarterback? Should it be Neubauer? Should it be Hawkins? What do you think?
I think it could be both. I think you put Neubauer in for at least the third quarter, see what he has, and then I think that if you can maybe sneak Hawkins in, maybe that at the very last bit of the game, or if you want to, if you're really trying to send a message that you're trying to keep that red shirt, maybe let's see Jet New. Let's see.
I was going to say that it seems like that's what BV's trying to say, is that they're probably not going to use him. It almost felt like that was what he was signaling. Do you don't think so?
No. I mean, yeah. I think that's what I was getting from it. I think that you're going to, you're probably going to not do that and probably save those 4 games just for key games, just in case.
Yeah. Here's last week's projections for the Michigan game. Yeah, we didn't get it right on the leading rusher, Mr. Mason got right. And he also got the leading receiver correct as well.
And I'm closest on score.
Closest on score. Oh, good for you.
I thought I was closest on score. We'll go from there.
Well, it was.
But hold on though. But you had them covering, and so it kind of.
All right, I blew the cover. You're right. I blew the cover. That's fine.
I'm gonna have to give that one to Kchris. I'm gonna have to give that one to Kchris.
But he gets to duck.
Right, when you go over, you fucked.
So this is the Price is Right. All right. Well, Kchris wins on score then.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, if we're gonna be hyper technical, then yeah.
I mean, defensive MVP. I feel like I'm probably closest there because Daniels was great, but I think it was probably Heineke.
Defensive line. Defensive line.
You cannot pick a group of players, Chris.
Nah,
line showed up, showed out, baby. Come on, man.
Nope, you don't get to get away with that. No, sir.
Let's go to this week's, man. Come on.
All right, let's get into it here. Predictions. Oh, all right. Obviously, for leading rusher, man, both of you guys got Jay Knott. I've got Javonte Barnes. I think that this is the kind of game you could kind of expect him to get some big run in and maybe break a few. I could be wrong on this, but what are your thoughts on this? Jay Knott, y'all think he gets ramped up this week? I'm guessing.
I think Blaylock. Maybe they said I'm choosing Ott on the basis that Blaylock sits.
Mm-hmm.
I'm choosing Ott on the basis of I think that a couple of your running backs could have some really good games. Again, when you watch those games, as hype as they are on defense, and I'm sure that they're gonna try to have some interesting looks. If you guys watch that in the weeds today, you saw them come out there with. I think that one play that they picked out, I think Teddy said, it looks like a cover one. Guys are kind of all over the place. It's kind of a little bit of chaos because you're trying to figure out who's in a box and who's not. But if our offensive line can get a push and be consistent at that, there should be holes for you to pick up 6 to anywhere from 4 to 6 yards per carry. I think this is a game where we can get it going. I think this is a game where Ott's quickness and his agility, I think that will help him be able to kind of run on these guys for a little bit.
Okay. Will John Mateer pass for 300 yards? Yeah, I mean, we're all saying yes. Do you feel like there's a possibility that maybe he doesn't, though, or do you feel like they're going to have him in long enough to get to that point, or do you end up some short fields and maybe he's out of the game before he gets to 300? That's kind of what we thought last.
Yeah, I think Temple's basically going to probably be, not as careless with the ball as they were last year. So I think we have more long drives, And I think early they're going to be I think they're going to overplay the run, and John's going to have to throw him out of it a little bit.
Well, if you ask me, guys, I will say this right here. I know I sound like a broken record, but I'll continue to say it. When I watch this offense at Washington State, so especially when they would start fast, they started fast. And I mean, I'm not saying just dicking and dining down the field. I mean, they were throwing bombs down the field, up the seam, hell with wide receivers, sideline throws. Those sideline throws you saw the Burks. These first couple of weeks, they were throwing a hell of a lot of those and connecting and running for a lot of yards. So if it just depends to me. It depends. Excuse me. To me, it depends on whether we can start fast or not. That's something I'm looking for us to do this game. I think that'd be something differently. Obviously, we scored first. We looked pretty good running. Getting the ball up and down the field on Michigan and stuff like that. But this is a game where I'm hoping that we can start pretty fast and go ahead and get this one out of the way.
We haven't seen the Satania big play yet.
Yep.
A palm to Satania, so that certainly seems to be something they might want to hit.
Wouldn't surprise me at all if that was the case. I'm thinking that Jaren Kanak is going to have a big game in this one as well. I think that he's ready to break out, and I'm just ready to see it. So I expect him to be that leading receiver. I think he ends up being even the offensive MVP, as you can see at the bottom. You see it more and more every week. And I love the way he finished plays last week. Something that, at the end of the run, he's delivering a blow instead of taking one. And that was big for me. So let's see. You guys had, Keontez Lewis and Deion Burks. I mean, I could definitely see both of those guys. And I do think that it wouldn't be that surprising if it was Satagna as well. I really would like to see some of these younger guys get more of an opportunity. I really want to see Carry on a little bit as well.
Yeah, he's 82, right?
Yeah.
I think he was out there for a spell. The Michigan
He didn't throw it his way. You know.
I think that you should be able to get guys into this game and get really good looks at these guys. I think we go up there and handle business. I have Keontez Lewis because I think that he may lead in receptions.
Sure.
As far as big plays or whatnot, I'm hoping that they can work that screen in for Satania again. I think that this is a game where that play could go for a lot of yards.
Okay.
Yeah, I do think though they are playing Hawk. So they are playing Burke, Satania, and Lewis enough that one of those guys is going over 100.
Okay.
So I think that's why we get a 100-yard receiver, 100-yard rusher. I think Ott breaks a big one at some point, and it's more of a big chunk play that puts him over the top.
Is this the week that you see Giovanni Gibson get back? I mean, we saw him on the sideline in uniform last week. Obviously, he didn't get into the game, but they talked about him. So is that a signal that you think maybe he does get into this game for a little while just to see if they can get him ramped up for next week?
Brent was awfully coy about him, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I think it's a distinct possibility.
Poker players that act coy, they got a hand.
Yeah, so I think it's a distinct possibility. I don't think we see Eli Bowen. We might see Dolby. I think Dolby's close. They might want to give him some cornerback reps, especially if they sit Gentry a little bit. I could see that being part of what the game plan is. So in terms of our walking wounded, and I've heard nothing on Fasusi whether he will play or not. So that's still, I think,
I don't see any point in playing him if there's.
Well, he needs reps. He needs reps. So I think again, you're right. If it's really tender,
he needs to be ready for the guy next week.
Well, yeah, okay, all right.
It could be. That's who I'm worried about is the Falk kid.
Yeah, and you should be. So he's Auburn's number one guy. So we'll see. But I'm trusting they've got a handle on that. I just don't know. I don't have any sources that are telling me anything more than what we've got that's currently out there, which is we don't know.
Okay. All right. We all think there's going to be a special 100-yard receiver. All but one has 100-yard rusher. Does OU score a defensive touchdown? I think this is the week.
Pick six.
I think they're going to have a pick six this week for sure. Can Kchris thinks they're still not going to get off the schneid. We hadn't even had a turnover yet, so I'm expecting something big here this week.
But Kchris thinks a special teams touchdown's happening. Is that Satania in the punt game, Chris?
Sir.
Huh?
I say yeah. I do believe. I say yes, sir. I think that Satania gets one in the punt game this week.
Okay.
Do you think is it starting to concern anybody that they hadn't gotten any turnovers yet?
No, because both offenses were deliberately keeping the ball out of danger.
True.
They were doing everything not to make a mistake. So, hey guys, on the predictions, it says as OU hold Michigan under 300 yards. That's my fault. The template I sent, Jason says Michigan.
That was my fault. That was my fault. I just didn't change it.
I need to update it on the spreadsheet. So that does. We know, guys. They're not playing Michigan again this week.
It. Yeah.
So, what was the last question? Special teams, right?
Be special teams touchdown and obviously defensive touchdown as well. So like a pick six or a scoop and score or something like that too.
No, I think Satania gets in there. I think he gets a touchdown.
Make up play for last week.
Yeah, I'm not really concerned with it. It was a guy who was trying to. You just got to play smarter football. That's all it is on both sides. Special teams with, hey, if we have them in the back of the end zone, like, hey Nesta, I'm glad that you're out there, but don't try to make a play if you're not close to it. If you for sure believe that you have it, go for it, but don't try to make a play. Same thing on a punt return. It's one of those things where I think Satania has to realize, like, hey, if I'm bagging up, I might as well just go ahead and get away from it, because they're kicking wafflers up there, and they started kicking to us, but he came back out there and he fielded the next few points well. And it's just one of those things where special teams you gotta clean that up. I gotta talk to Ide and say, hey, there's no reason to catch it right there at the 2-yard line. Let it go out of bounds. It was going out of bounds. Just don't touch it. But we have guys that feel like they could take it home at any point. So excited about that. I think that we will be fine. Those are things that are correctable. Just don't want to see it linger on.
It was Sam O that hit the punter, wasn't it?
Oh, I think it was Sam O. Yeah,
it was. And you can't have that happening either. Those are the things you want to see them clean up for sure. All right. Does Oklahoma have an offensive play over 50 yards? Everybody thinks so. I think they probably get multiple of them as well. But do they hold them under 300 yards? It's Temple, obviously. We all believe that they will. Any particular reason why, Mr. Mason?
I think they shut down the running game, and their quarterback, Temple is not. I think Temple is not going to gamble and go. I think they'll try and go deep a little bit. Their quarterback will get hit around a little bit, and then I think they're gonna keep things more conservative and just don't get enough passing yards to get over 300.
Right. Okay. I got David Stone as the defensive MVP. You guys both have Cortland Guillory. I could definitely see that. I think that Stoney but he played unbelievable last week. I think that I could see him picking up a couple of sacks, maybe forcing a fumble or something like that is why I've got him doing it. And I'm excited about the way he's playing, by the way, too. But I'm damn sure excited about Guillory as well. Every time you hear somebody talk about him or talk to him, his confidence in himself and what his skill set is through the roof, guys.
Yeah, I mean, he's my pick six guy. I think that I'm guessing Gentry is going to be limited or held out, and that we're going to see Devon Jordan and Guillory, maybe Dolby and Guillory out there this weekend. So I think Guillory's going to have a chance. That Temple's going to have to throw the ball a little bit at least early to try and keep in the game, and I think that's going to open some opportunities up for Guillory and make a play on the ball.
Yeah. Okay. Again, I got Kanik as offensive MVP. Kchris has got Mateer. You think he's going to have another big game this week?
Yes, I think that he's going to have another big game this week, and I think it's going to be mostly through the air.
Okay. I like it. And Mr. Mason's got Jaden Ott. This will probably make a lot of people happy if it comes true.
Well, I figure if he goes over 100 yards, everyone will just feel like he's the MVP. A running back finally went over 100 yards for the first time since like the main game, right? So it'll just be it'll be overweighted more than it probably should be just because it's a running back going over 100 yards for us.
Right. Yeah. Final score. I mean, Chris Mason and I have it not very close at all. I don't think that they're giving up a touchdown. I think it may be a couple of field goals, but Kchris got a little closer, 34-10, but it's still a blowout. Do you feel like that's enough of a blowout though, Kchris, 34-10?
I think it is because I think that you probably front load everything and then you just start working on stuff towards the to the middle part of the third quarter. You start working on stuff, kind of just giving looks and just trying to see if guys can get out there and do pretty good. I don't see them really breaking any long runs on us. I could see them maybe hitting a pass or two on us just to challenge that offense. But that's going to be the interesting part. I think it all really starts with Guillory on a game like this, simply because I think if they do throw, they're probably going to try to throw to his side. They'd be crazy to throw it to the side of Gentry. Especially with screens and different things like that, with how instinctual he is as far as blowing up those things. So that'll be the interesting part if they try to do any bubble screens or different things like that to that side. But I think for the most part, if they try to throw, it's going to be either over the middle, trying to move guys and motion guys out, see if Kip or McKenzie, Heineke or Daniels will move out of that box on Yasigo too. I throw him in there. And I think they'll try to maybe work that middle, work that seam, and then whatever they can really get, maybe some dig routes themselves. I mean, their receivers are capable. I'll give them that. But I think the real threat is those two running backs and that tight end. Those are the guys who mainly move the ball for them who are really featured in this offense. So I think so long as you're fine with them, and I think as long as you can get a good mix of attacking and not necessarily just sitting back on those, when you get them into like a 3rd and 14, a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 type thing, I think that as long as you can attack, put some pressure or whatnot, you should be fine. So we'll see.
No doubt. They did have 300 yards last week, so that was against Howard. So, I mean, I don't expect them to do the same this week as well. Anything else on our projections?
No, just I think the only thing on the final score is, again, as I think Kchris identified it, at what point does OU kind of shut it down, and at what point Temple's sort of, start running clock and just want to get out of there, move on to, just like the Illinois State guy, coach, correctly, once OU got up, he's like, I'm just pulling my horns in, let's just get out of town and not worry about it. There's a point where, OU's defensively not facing that many snaps, and it's because teams are just kind of running clock and just trying to, and OU and Arbuckle is sensibly running clock as well. So
absolutely.
So there's a sense that it's not quite the the Lincoln Riley days where he's hammering the accelerator through 3-4 quarters. There's a bigger picture tactical game going on with how Arbuckle is working the clock.
And I think it should make Oklahoma fans feel good about what they're doing and stuff. Being able to kind of delete that fourth quarter last week was so big, and it's something that you damn sure want to do in SEC play. I think you should try to play that way throughout the season. You know what I mean? If you're going to do it all the time, you're going to do it all the time. And so that's the way you kind of drive that way home. And so I love it. I think it's good. Kyle DePuis has them going 50-0. Sooners for Life says 56-9. We've got 38-13 from Sooner Cowboys. Duke Silver Sooner says 42-16. Drop your score predictions in there, folks, if you haven't already. Right now we're going to go ahead and jump into last week's. To the last week's. Oh wait, damn it! I don't have them yet. Just a second. Thought I did actually, maybe. see if that's it still. Nope. Wrong one. Damn it. I didn't pull it up here. All right. Well,
You want me to read them off? You want me to read them off?
it's definitely in here. Yeah, we can. Yeah. Go ahead and read them off, man.
All right. So last week, everybody pushed on the Iowa game because we had a point spread of 3 points. So none of us won anything there. So there's only 4 games of note. I went 2-2. Jason went 3-1. Kchris went 2-2. So we are at, for the year, I am 7-7. Jason is 7-7, and Kchris is trailing at 6-8. So that's where we are going into this week, and we're going to pick 6 games to move to get everybody back on track in terms of the number of games we've been picking. So this week we are picking Temple VOU always, and then we're doing LSU Florida, Georgia Tech Clemson, Tennessee Georgia, Notre Dame A&M, and Miami USF.
Right. You are. It's actually. Let me do this different. Just add it to this screen. That way we don't have to screw with it like that. All right. Yeah. So we have obviously the Oklahoma game, and this is our MyBookie pick 5, but we're going to do 6 this week. Make sure that you, if you are not already signed up with MyBookie, you can get up to $1,000 welcome bonus. That's 100% of your initial deposit up to $1,000 by going to hofmedia.us/MyBookie1000. All right. Yeah, guys. So obviously we all picked Oklahoma to cover the 22.5. They covered the 22.5 with our scores, no matter what. We've talked enough about that game. Let's talk about some of these other big games, I think. Florida at LSU. I almost went the other direction on this because even though I don't really, after what I saw from Florida, it concerns me, and I think that they can get killed because I think LSU looks really, really good right now. But is there any trepidation from either of you guys about picking LSU for this at -7.5 at home, with knowing that you're probably going to get the best game that you could get out of Florida?
Nuss is banged up allegedly.
Okay.
It's not. Yeah. He's apparently hurt his back or something like that. So okay. I had some trepidation on this. Basically, like Napier doing kind of the classic lose the game you should win, and then turn right around and winning a game that you should lose. So I did. I almost went with UF, but it being at LSU. And with their offense just looking so erratic right now, and Lagway looking so erratic, I just couldn't do it. But I did think about it, heavily.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Kchris? You trust in LSU?
Yeah, I trust. I it's hard because I do like Billy Napier. I like the old ball coach down there, but I think that him calling plays right now is just, I don't think that that's a recipe for success. Yes, it worked when everything clicked last year or whatever, I guess. But my whole thing is that I just at times it's really good, and at times it can feel a bit limited. It can feel a bit archaic, right?
Yeah, it feels like he's just struggling to keep it all together, man. You know what I mean?
That's the whole thing. Whenever pretty much your best wide receiver is a freshman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's one thing that you can knock on Florida for. I mean, however many years since like Urban. To be honest with you, when's the last time outside of like Kyle Pitts? They had maybe like one other receiver outside of that. When's the last time they had like that guy at receiver, right? So maybe that's
Wilson's coming back this week, apparently.
Yeah. So maybe they don't have. I mean, maybe they just need more weapons. Maybe that's it to add some explosiveness to this offense. You already know they're going to have really good athletes, but that's the thing that worries me. I think defensively they'll show up, but for how long? How long does it take for Nussmeier and company to wear on Florida to where they basically break at some point?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this Georgia Tech at Clemson. Georgia Tech getting 3.5. Look, Kchris is the only one picking Clemson on this one, and I think Clemson's. I'll let you kind of talk about this.
Actually, that's swapped around. I believe Georgia Tech's at home.
Is it at home?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me check that for you.
I thought
That's what I put in the spreadsheet, so maybe I have it wrong.
maybe so. Okay, I may have picked it. The home team's always last, is why I always do that.
Sorry, Clemson is at Georgia Tech.
Okay.
So if that affects,
then I really feel good about that then.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If it had been in the other Death Valley, I might have gone with Clemson. But on the flats at Georgia Tech, I think that's worth the points.
Right. I do too, and I think that right now, I mean, Georgia Tech comes in now. The only thing is the Haynes is pretty banged up a little bit, and they're gonna and if he's in, they're gonna expect him to run the ball because that's what he does. Clemson has to look a little bit better. They were losing at halftime last week to nobody. You know what I mean? So I could see them kind of getting back on it, but the one thing you know that you're going to get from Georgia Tech is a fist fight. And I don't know that Clemson wins a fist fight. You know, I just don't know that they do. And at home for Georgia Tech, I like that. I like their odds there.
It's 2 weeks in a row Clemson's had to grind. I just think going on the road, they're a little vulnerable.
Yeah. Now, do they get to the playoff if they go 1-2 here? Does it kill their playoff chances?
No, because they obviously can win the ACC, but with Florida State playing better and Miami playing better, Clemson's window gets much. I mean, their margin of error is getting significantly reduced. So if they pick up another loss here, I mean, it's the at-large situation that really hurts them, right? If they're 1-2 right now and they pick up another loss, that a 3-loss ACC team is not getting an at-large bid. I don't think. Mm-hmm. So that means it's
unless they win the conference championship.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But that's it. It's like I guess they still play that in Charlotte. I think so. It's Charlotte or bust for them, right? And that's they don't have any other margin. Their margin for error is completely eliminated, right? They basically have to win out and get to Charlotte if they drop the game to Tech.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Why do you think they're going to win there, Kchris? Clemson.
I think this is a game where whenever they're trying to run that RPO, kind of an option look or whatnot, I tend to say that defensive line with Peter Woods and company, they should look the part against that. I also think that this is a game here that this is a game where Caleb Klubnik can actually get it going. He and Garrett Riley, who have not necessarily been the perfect marriage, not necessarily been the best marriage, they just are there, still together.
They looked pretty good most of the season last year, but yeah, I get what you're saying for sure. I get what you're saying.
For me, eye test wise, they won an ACC championship that was given to them it was a consolation pretty much. Yeah, they ended up, giving Texas a run for their money late, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's always kind of unpredictable how that's going to go. It is a Riley offense. It may not be Lincoln Riley, but it is his brother. So there are certain parts that you can attack. And when you attack the finesse parts of it, that's whenever it looks pretty weak, simply because you're taking away some of the bread and butter stuff that he wants to get to. So it'll be interesting to see, because Georgia Tech, they looked the part. They played the part for the most part. They're a hard-nosed team, but they will give you opportunities on offense to go and do what you need to do. So I think that a
lot of people's sleeper for a CFP bid, and Mason's been talking about him since before the season. So yeah, I get it.
I'm sticking with Clemson, man. I think with their backs against the wall is one of the most dangerous.
True that. A wounded dog is a dangerous dog, without a doubt. Number 16, Texas A&M, getting 6.5 on the road at Notre Dame, who is coming off a bye week following their week 1 loss at Miami. Look, I think that Texas A&M has not looked very good, and they haven't looked good on the side of the ball that you expect them to look good, which is on defense. I don't know how you pick them on the road at Notre Dame. I feel like there's no way that Mike Denbrock doesn't run the shit out of the football with Jordan Love this week, after not giving him the ball as many times as CJ Carr ran the ball at Miami. I think that Freeman make sure that happens this week. I think that they win. I think they probably win going away. Tell us why you got A&M though, Mr. Mason.
Well, I don't have them to win, but I'm taking the points. So I just think this is going to be a fairly low-scoring game. That neither. I just think Notre Dame's defense will force Marcel Reed to have to win the game. I'm not sure. He's played better this year, but I don't really. I mean, who have they played? I mean, really, it's the step up in competition, road game at Notre Dame. So I think it's like a 23-17 kind of game. It's a little bit of a rock fight, and I think the 6.5 points is a lot of points to get in a rock fight.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't see the offenses, all of a sudden becoming, Notre Dame's got guys, this whole Concepcion, Craver, they're the best wide receiver duo in the country. All right, guys, play a real defense and get back to me, and let's see where they are after this game.
Yeah, they played UTSA, and who was it they played the first week? I don't even remember. It was not a good team, and they didn't. They
weren't exactly kicking ass in that game either. So, but yeah, we'll see. But it's a matchup. I mean, it's when you talk about teams with their back against the wall. This is Notre Dame. In many ways, this is Notre Dame's season. I'm not sure with losses to Miami and to Texas A&M that a 10-2 Notre Dame team, again, college football playoff wise, is at large biddable. I mean, they've got games against Boise, who may not be any good, and they got to play USC. But it's not like their schedule has like a lot of other big bold win opportunities on it. So I see, Notre Dame's definitely got their back against the wall here. They need to win this game, or they could really be on the outside looking in as without a championship, without a conference championship route. 10-2 Notre Dame with that schedule, with 2 losses to probably the 2 best teams they play. I don't know that they can get in with that, but that's a discussion for another day.
I think it would be dependent on some other teams and stuff like that. But then again, I think you still have a road game in the SEC that you can go win, and beating USC. Right now, USC looks like they're pretty good. Now they haven't played anybody either. If you can win that game, I think that they're going to have some opportunities. And here's the truth about Notre Dame. If they're 10-2 at the end of the year, they're going to put them in the fucking playoff. You can bet that.
I think it depends. But we'll see.
I think it doesn't depend. I think it's ESPN and the people want the team that's going to get the most eyes on the game, and that's a Notre Dame thing. It's a brand thing. You know what I mean?
We'll see. But I think at 10-2, they're more obviously.
They're exposed.
They're much more exposed. 9-3, they're in bad trouble.
9-3 doesn't get them in.
But 10-2, they're exposed and are very much relying upon conference championship games. Who are those conference? As long as they need a lot of 11-1 teams.
If they don't get in at 10-2, that may be the only chance that you see them. As a couple of years of not getting in at 10-2 would be the only chance that you see them going into a conference. Because right now, they have no reason to go to a conference.
No, you're right. They have absolutely nothing. They've made accommodations for them. So we'll see. But this is, again, if they beat A&M, then all right, okay. The path to 11-1 is distinctly possible. But you drop this game, and then, like I said, your old margin for error is gone.
Yeah.
So they'll have their back against the wall. It should be an interesting game. Will tell us a lot about. I think it'll tell us a lot about Texas A&M, maybe more than Notre Dame.
Yeah, and then obviously we're picking against the spread on this other one. So it's what was it again? I forgot.
17.5 when I said it on Wednesday.
And I think that I've got Miami winning the game. I don't know that they cover that, and USF has shown that they can play with anybody. So I think that they stick around long enough and maybe stay within 17. I think that's what we're obviously picking there, Kyle. Not for them to win, but yeah, it's. I think that they stay within that amount. Now, Kchris thinks they're going to blow them out. You really believe in Mario Cristobal?
Yeah, no, I think that they got the juices going. I think that it's at Miami. And I don't think that they're going to sleep on them. I think Miami is playing really inspired football right now. If we see any cracks, it will be interesting to see if this team does not look good like they have in the first 2 weeks or so of the season. So we shall see. But I think this is a game where Florida gave you every opportunity to stay in that game. I don't think Miami will.
Yeah, I'm going with USF with the points. I think 17.5 is a lot for a Miami team that we haven't seen a lot of explosive offense from.
Right.
And that's a lot of points. And USF has played well. They got a running game. They got a running quarterback. They can run clock, grind the game down, and they've got
Yeah.
good. They got athletes on defense, so they're not going to be. They're not going to just get blown. They're not going to get their doors blown off by Miami's speed, right?
And let's just be real. Alex Golesh knows what the hell he's doing against SEC football teams. I mean, he was the coordinator the first year that Tennessee outlasted, that Alabama game, where the score was in the 40s. They both scored in the 40s. So this is a guy and he went toe to toe with Alabama 2 years in a row. The dude can coach, and he's got stud athletes, as you said, in Florida to be able to get out there and put up a fight. I mean, it's not like Miami, hell, the other thing you got to think about, would it really surprise you if they screwed it up? No, it wouldn't, because Mario Cristobal is the worst game day coach in the country.
Again, if you stuck Mario Cristobal in an escape room, how many months does it take him to get out of there?
That's hilarious. I love that.
I mean, I'm stealing that joke from the Cover 3 podcast, but I mean, seriously, he almost screwed up the Notre Dame game. I mean,
he tried to. He did.
He was doing his damn best to lose that game. So
he did.
17.5 points is a lot of points for the Cristobal to cover against the guy who we all think is probably a better game day coach.
I don't think. I absolutely believe that he's a better game day coach.
It's
I don't think it's close.
I mean, it's close. But Miami UF is going to be a battle of strategic, geniuses when Napier and Cristobal go against each other in game day decision making. So.
Oh man, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Holy shit. Yeah.
So, all right, it's a game of the day. Game of the day.
Game of the week, no doubt about it.
Game of the weekend.
Giving 3.5 on the road at Tennessee. There's a lot of people that I heard somebody in here or somebody in the chat earlier said, "What? Nobody thinks Tennessee's going to win?" No, I don't. They've not played anybody that's worth a shit. Syracuse damn near got beat again last week by a nobody team, and their fucking coach had them doing wind sprints on the field after the game.
Went to overtime with Connecticut.
So I don't want to hear about how great Joey Aguilar looks when nothing that, as much as I love hype, he has not been able to figure out how to do anything against Georgia. And they don't even have to heavy up their box. You don't have your running back. The offensive line is different. They've got some good receivers. But you're going to bet – I'm not betting that Tennessee's going to go out there and dot up Georgia's secondary and be able to not have their guy under an intense amount of pressure. I think Georgia wins it going away, especially in view of the fact that they didn't play very good last week. And that's perfect for a guy like Kirby to beat their ass all week and make sure that they know you better get it together.
So a former podcast buddy of mine says – that the Heupel Baylor offense, if you don't need your safeties to factor in the run game, that offense does not have a second punch. So Heupel's best quarterback was the Hooker kid, right? To date.
Yeah.
And they went to Athens and got obliterated because they had because I don't think Kirby and Brent both have the in on what you do to this offense and how to stop it. It's the Baylor offense. When they play weak opponents, they blitz them, and that's just what that scheme does. Ever since back to the what's his name's days at Baylor when he had his track star wide receivers, if you don't have the athletes to match up against them, they'll blitz you all day and all day long. Keep throwing, keep throwing, and keep throwing. And that's what Heupel's doing, which is fine. But if you notice his offense, whenever it comes head to head with a defense that can stop the run without having to bring their safeties involved, and if you keep the safeties back, you stop this offense. It's just the way it works. And I think Kirby has the talent on defense to do this, and offensively they put enough points on the board to win a game.
Yeah, and again, I say the best thing that happened to them was being
close.
Oh
yeah.
They were who was it that they played last week? It was
Austin Peay.
Austin Peay. Yeah, for them being as close as they were, that's perfect for Kirby Smart.
Yeah, and it was a disjointed game with the lightning delay and all that as well. So a little bit like a lot of the games on the East Coast were last week. But yeah, my main point is Hype's going to have to put serious points on Georgia before I believe he can put serious points on Georgia.
Yeah, he didn't. Like you said earlier, he didn't do it with his best team in Hendon Hooker.
His best offensive squad with 2 NFL wide receivers,
absolutely,
and his best quarterback. They had just beaten what? They just knocked off Alabama, and then next week they went to Georgia, and Kirby
obliterated. Yeah,
flatlined them. So we'll see. I just think Kirby and Brent know how to know how to match up with that offense, and it's like, and that offense just doesn't have a second punch. It's what we saw with Levy a little bit, right? Levy just was sticking to what he did, but when teams, had an answer, he just didn't have anything else in his bag. That's just what we're hoping Arbuckle is different, right? That Arbuckle's gonna, be more matchup focused and less rigid in his scheme.
Yeah, come on, Iota Simp, you are not betting $1,000 on Tennessee, bro. Stop it. No way you're doing that.
Yeah, but Kchris, what do you think?
Man, this is a game where I think that it could go Tennessee's way simply because Gunnar Stockton is going to be the kind of the unknown. I think he's such a tough guy. I think that he goes in there, and I think they establish the run. I think they run the ball, and I think they score when they need to. I think it's a closer game. Obviously 3.5 Georgia, but I think Georgia with Bolden and some of those guys back there, whatever. I think I want to say that they shut down kind of what you want to do with that veer and shoot, try to get vertical as fast as you possibly can, right? I think they're able to read those things, maybe take that away. I think they forced, Joey to sit back in that pocket and try to dissect you down the field opposed to trying to hit you with bombs, which he can do both. But at the same time, I think that you try to force him into some of his tendencies that he had at an App State, right? So
yeah, listen, I think I'm with you on that. I think that he hasn't played against a real SEC defense, and his first one is Georgia.
Yeah,
I think it's tough, and I'm going to go back to what I said at the start of the season. I don't believe in Tennessee anyway.
Yeah,
we'll see. By the time we get them, we'll have we'll have a much better picture of who they are, who OU is. But right now, they're obviously off to a hot start. But Nico was off to a hot start last year, right?
He was.
Folks, and then he got to Norman, and if we'd had any kind of offense, that's a fourth quarter game. And I think Brent showed how you defense those guys, and I think the book is out on them. Now some people don't have the right resources to be able to stop them, but right. But as you said, they've got Bolden at safety, they've got the guys up front. I will be very surprised if Georgia and Kirby aren't ready for them. Now again, could Tennessee's defense, they've got good talent on their
they're not as good as they were last year, though.
No, but they do have talent up front. But the biggest problem is they're down to 2 cornerbacks.
That's right.
They don't have anybody behind those guys.
Receivers in Athens now too.
Yeah, and they don't have any cornerback depth. So if there's any more injuries at cornerback, Tennessee's playing a true freshman that they didn't intend to play, unlike Cortland Guillory. It may even be someone they just don't want to play, and you can't get away with a season of that at cornerback. So that's something to watch. If one of their corners has to go out,
Well, they had both
Tennessee
of them
had
out last week, right? They had
both those guys are done for the year. I don't think you're going to see either of those guys. The Carmody kid, I think is his name, or that's close. And the other guy got hurt, and I think he's out for the year. So they have cornerback problems. So if for some reason they get any more banged up there, they're exposed. They have depth issues there. They don't have anybody they want to play.
Yeah, I feel good about picking Georgia here, and I know it's tough to play it at Neyland Stadium, but as our guys in Georgia say, not if you're kicking their ass. It gets awfully quiet, so we'll kind of see how it all turns out. But myself, I'm gonna go with the dogs. I'm gonna go with the dogs on this one. All right. Anything else we need to talk about before we get out? Oh, well, there was something I was thinking about, but it just blew my mind. And oh, should we talk anything? I mean, is there any news? What are you guys thinking about this whole Gundy thing? It's getting a little sketchy there. I mean, I guess maybe next week's more time to talk about it because they could lose to Tulsa. What would that feel like?
Yeah, I mean they're a little. I think we should leave them alone and let the social services that are needed get their visits in and see where the trauma is in Stillwater. But when Jim Trebor, the OKC blowhard OSU guy, is saying, I mean, he's been blitzing Gundy all week, according to my sources in the Oklahoma City area. I mean, all week about that, and they've got their president's apparently retiring or not being. His contract's not being renewed or something. So they
fired the president over what happened with Gundy over the wintertime, right?
Yeah. So they've got leadership problems. They do. So I'm not sure who's technically got the authority to fire Gundy, but they got some leadership problems over there. So I think we should leave that and see how the rest of their season goes. I mean, they're not supposed to win. They're not favored to win any more of their games other than Tulsa. And it's like they have a 20% chance of winning every game other than Tulsa. Below 20% or lower chance of winning every game after Tulsa. So
I just had two things to say. I'd say one, fellas, that's a green screen conversation. Look, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of articles. There's a lot of different things that are coming in about that situation. Hell, I just read an article the other day where they said, hey, there's already plans to basically have him retire at the end of the year and go ahead and get the guy that they want. I personally know a couple of donors, a couple of boosters, big boosters to OSU program who are pretty much boycotting. They haven't went to any of the games yet this season, so they may not go to any. A lot of people are really upset with not just the whole Gunny situation, but other things that have happened that has transpired. So it's a lot of stuff that's going on. Second off, I would say, people, Jason, get that coming off the screen for a second. If you see that right there at Chris with a K, go to Twitter right now and you will see the latest video that I did drop. I'm sure that you people will.
Oh, well, can I throw it on?
I mean, you could. I mean, hey, I don't know. I don't want to get a copyright claim, but I'll just say, people, bad football and random country songs. Definitely go over there to the Twitter.
Yeah, never mind. I won't put it up there then. That is awesome, though. By the way, it was awesome.
Kchris with the bionic elbow off the top rope to the Okie State program with that. It was vicious.
I would definitely say go to Twitter and you guys can see exactly what we're talking about. But yeah, no, it's a mess down there. I had a friend, I've tried to keep him on the up and up, saying positive and saying, hey man, you guys should win at least 7 or 8 games. That's typical Gundy fashion. He told me, don't say anything else to me. We're beating Tulsa and UCF, and that's it. There's nobody else in the Big 12 that we're beating. I don't think it's that bad, 69 to whatever, but at the same time, it is what it is. I don't know. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I put the link to that very
sensational Twitter post.
Amazing post by Kchris. It was great stuff. Great stuff.
And one last thing, Jason, just want to let you know, because I know you're deeply concerned on this topic. It's been keeping you up at nights. I know that it's been hard for you to work. Kchris and I are doing everything we can on Monday nights to find Bevo's bodyguard for you. He's still missing. We have twice done PSAs on the recruiting pod to try and find him, and he's still missing. But
Carlos from Michigan too, man. There's something going on there. We hadn't seen him either. I think he popped in on the after show right after on Saturday, but he hasn't been available to where I've seen him and been able to say shit.
So I know you and Bevo go back a long time, and it's really killing you. It's killing you that he's not available, but we're trying. We have our resources hunting for him. Mainly low, not high. I don't think he's in any high places. Mainly low places looking for him, and maybe we'll have some success soon.
I think you may need to check. You may need to check the psych wards, man. He might have tried to slit his own wrist because
the brand has finally returned. F*** your brand.
Shout out to Onikuno.
All right, man. Thanks, guys.
Good stuff. Hey, appreciate everybody coming in. We'll see you all on the next one.